What's going on, Jeromes? Beautiful day for some Q&A. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions. We're going to get, we say this every freaking Q&A video. We're going to get better at doing more of these. So first off, Traveler, OG Jerome, considering talent available in the draft by position, can you rank which positions we should prioritize in free agency? So I feel like the draft is unreliable, because it's random. You don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to project past the first round, and even that, it's a crapshoot. Now, this draft is very deep, coincidentally, in positions that the Vikings need. Interior defensive line, running back, as well as it's a decent cornerback, interior offensive line, as well as it's a really good tight end class, which I think that the Vikings needs. They should stay consistent, and they shouldn't change based on what could and should happen into the draft, because I think it's just too random. So for me, pass rush defensive tackle is numero uno, interior offensive line, cornerback, running back, and tight end. So you could put these in tiers. I could say that tier 1 is both of the trenches. Running back and cornerback is tier 2, tight end tier 3, because who knows what's going to happen with Josh Oliver. Plus, I mean, if Hockenson, yes, come back off that ACL, had a decent year last year given the time frame, but this year's important. Like, if Hockenson doesn't return to that 100, 1,000 pace that he had in 2023 before he got hurt by Dirty Kirby Joseph, I mean, do the Vikings make a tough decision, right? And so it's certainly possible, right? But, the Vikings definitely could use a freshman tight end. We had a mock draft where 11 was available, 24. We just couldn't do it. Wanted to, couldn't do it. Next. Number 2, Ray Petty, another OG Jerome. Love the Q&A sessions. Thank you. 2 questions today. Would you take a late round flyer on LSU wide receiver Kyron Lacy? So with Lacy, suspect in a fatal hit and run incident, really sad. Didn't get invited to the combine. I think that he is going to go undrafted. I'm perfectly fine if the Vikings pass. Like, Lacy is talented, except I think that there's too much hanging over him right now, and I think a lot of teams won't even sign him as a UDFA, and I think the Vikings should be on that list too, because in terms of character and culture, now obviously you're not going to have a perfect roster of choir boys, but I just think that Lacy, this is a spot where the Vikings would pass, where previous regimes that aren't Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, like, maybe they entertain it, but I just don't see it. Now, some team will. I mean, Lacy's that talented, but yeah, it's just really unfortunate. Also, question 2, how do you feel about the Vikings signing Justin Jefferson in free agency if Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold both leave? I think that Fields is in that tweener situation where I think that he is going to be signed to be a starter, at least a high-end bridge, and he's not going to have that situation here with the Vikings. Now, I mean, Fields, I feel like his athletic ability and his talent, I feel like it could be honed by Kevin O'Connell. And maybe it's a spot where Justin Fields pulls a Daniel Jones last year, where Jones could have signed somewhere and started immediately after the Giants cut him loose, but he decided to sign on with the Vikings to be a backup to get some learning done. And maybe Fields does that, but I feel like that there's going to be enough interest in Fields as a starter where it's not going to make sense. And I think Fields and the Jets could make a little bit of sense, where Aaron Glenn knows Justin Fields from their time in the NFC North, and I don't know, I just feel like if an offense is specifically catered around the strengths about Justin Fields, I think that he can be successful, right? Just hasn't happened yet. So, but rooting for him, especially if he's in a different conference. Next, Cody Pierce. Would you consider spending good money on DJ Reed and Murph than blast D-line in the draft? So this would be a lot of fun. And yeah, Murph and DJ Reed are a little bit undersized corners on the outside, around the outside. Murph could play inside. DJ Reed's just an outside dude, but it's going to cost you. It's probably going to be about $40 million per year combined between the two of them. But you would have potentially like one of the best corner duos in the National Football League. Like, DJ Reed is an absolute stud, man. And we said this before. Reed thrives when being thrown at. Right, and he gets thrown at a lot because with the Jets, he had Sauce Gardner on the other side. And it doesn't matter whether it's with the Seahawks or the Niners or the Jets, DJ Reed is just a dog. He's super feisty, and I love his game. I think they would fit in very nicely with Flores. And Murphy, is really good here with the Vikings and in the Flores scheme. So I wouldn't be mad at it. Like obviously the Vikings have the cash to throw some money around at other positions as well. But since this is such a good D-line class, even though we said don't try and pigeonhole yourself in the draft, I mean the Vikings should and could still sign defensive line, but they certainly could partake in the draft. Next. Speaking of partaking, Jake Ham, obviously it's not the likely thing considering our draft pick shortage, but do you see any scenario where we move up in the first round and take Ashton Jeanty? You've always said F them picks, and just because we're short on them this year doesn't mean that we, Kwesi, should be scared to continue to be aggressive. Now, it is a very, very damn good running back class. Let me pull up, where is it? All right, so yeah, it's a very good running back class, and in terms of where the Vikings are drafting at 24, could have Caleb Johnson, Amari Hampton, Trevion Henderson could be in that mix. They got Harvey, Scadaboo, Judkins, Sampson. Like so many damn good running backs. Like there's probably 5 that I would feel fine with the Vikings drafting that aren't even on this list, right? So for me, except there's tiers of this thing, and Jeanty is that difference maker. He is going to be one of one in this running back class, and even though it's a deep running back class, it doesn't take away the fact that Jeanty is the best of this group. Now, would you trade up for him? I think that at a certain point you have to consider it. Where if he, all right, so the most natural mocked spots for Jeanty are 10 to the Bears, 12 to the Cowboys. Both need running backs. Both have a lot of other needs though, but I think past that. I think the next natural slot would be 17 Bengals, maybe 16 to the Cardinals, depending on how long they think that Connor's going to do it. But then, once you get into the Broncos, he gone. The Steelers 21, he gone, and 22 Chargers obviously would take him. Even though it seems like Omari and Hampton would be a better fit with the Chargers, doing a lot of man gap. So I don't know, like if he. Problem is that it's a large jump because I think if he's there at 17, the Bengals just take him. But do you get to 16? And what's that going to cost you? I'm not going to give up the third. Not going to give up the future third. Like if you could swing a deal where before the draft, when it's part and parcel with a tag and trade with Darnold, which I don't know, location, where would you go? Colts, maybe. That could make some sense. Not the Jets. Raiders at 6. That seems a little bit too high too. So I don't know. Like obviously it'd be great, but I just don't see him falling that far to be in range for the Vikings. But it's all right. Great consolation prize. The Vikings could stick and pick and take Caleb Johnson, Marion Hampton, or Trevion Henderson, and you're gonna be good to go there. Lastly, Kallenman. Who are your number 24 stick and picks if they're available? Well, one of the running backs. Yeah, you're gonna have your options there, but if one of these 4 guys is on the board and you don't get trade offers that knock you over, I'd say just stick and pick. So Walter Nolan, the disruptive defensive tackle from Ole Miss, started at Texas A&M. I think that he would be great for the Vikings defensive line. Kenneth Grant, pure physical freak nose tackle, I think has a lot of upside as a pass rusher as well. Tyler Booker is a set it and forget it starter at guard for the next 10 years. Like he's going to be good to go, borderline Pro Bowl type player, be perfect for what the Vikings need. And then Derek Harmon, the most disruptive defensive interior in the country, and I think that he's continuing to grow and show. The former Michigan State Spartan, former Duck, I think that he has a huge monstrous upside. I feel like if you could call him like Diet Chris Jones, I don't think that you would be far off. That's the talent level and ceiling that Derek Harmon does have. So for me right now, those 4 are the send the card in type picks at 24. But that's it. A little Q&A on this beautiful day. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol production value.